So my name is Patrick Marché. I studied Spanish and Portuguese literature at Cambridge. I was at Fitz, obviously, and I matriculated, 2009, so 11 years ago. And I graduated in 2013. So it was a 4-year course. I did 1 year abroad. So right now I work as a project manager for an advertising company. So I project manage like the language side of like all the different international campaigns that we do. So like localization and stuff like that. And to keep my sanity, outside of that, I'm on a podcast with 3 other Cambridge grads. It's called Over the Bridge Podcast. We, in our first episode, we sort of talk about the sort of Cambridge experience, whether we do it again, and like just like a very sort of frank, sort of discussion about what it was like there. And then in the subsequent episodes, we just talk about everything from like masculinity, identity, mental health, race, politics. It's pretty good, but I know I'm biased. So, you know, if you want to check it out, you can check it out. I'm trying to like kind of like tap into like my sort of more creative side. So recently getting into filmmaking as well. But yeah, all in a bid to just kind of, like I say, stay sane in this kind of capitalist rat race, you know? So that's me.
That's amazing. Okay, so I'm just going to start off. I guess you've already, as you said, covered this in your podcast, but just having an idea of what your journey to Cambridge was like. What kind of school you came from, whether you thought you deserved to go to a place like Cambridge or would belong, all that kind of good stuff.
That's a good question, whether I thought I deserved to go. So I went to a private school. I'll just get that out there from the beginning. My parents, they were sort of very kind of like, they wanted to do all they could to make sure that, you know, I had the best education. So I was very fortunate to go to a good private school. But funnily enough, it's like, even though, you know, my parents, you know, spent a lot of money on that and, you're in a good school. When I was there, I was never really made to feel like I was sort of like that particularly intelligent or particularly bright, I guess, like relatively speaking to the rest of my peers. So I went through most of schools thinking I was sort of average, below average. And I guess that was partly due to the fact that it was kind of like what I was getting in terms of feedback from grades. So I never really like I excelled in, I guess, in a couple of places. I think my main thing when I was young was music. Like I was very good at music. So I played the violin, viola, and it was actually a music scholarship that allowed me to sort of allow my parents to sort of afford my education anyway. So that was kind of my thing. And I didn't really think I was that academically gifted. I was just thought, I'm good at music and I'm okay. But I remember in year 10, we did our mock GCSEs and I really excelled and I shocked myself because I was like, right, okay. But I think it was because they were externally marked. They weren't marked by our own teachers. They were marked by another school. And yeah, there's no real giveaways about my ethnicity due to my name. My name's quite European sounding. So I don't know. Even then I didn't think anything of like Cambridge or anything like that. But I remember it was in parents' evening when I was I was 14, 15. And my history teacher was like, yeah, Patrick's doing very well, blah, blah, blah. And that was fair enough because I was good at history. And then he said, oh yeah, I think you should be thinking about applying to Cambridge. And I was sort of drifting off to sleep because, you know, it's parents' evening. But that's like, that sort of stunned me and I sort of woke up. And yeah, from then, I was like, okay, yeah, Cambridge, like, yeah, I can do it. Like, I'm on this thing. Like, and the thing about it as well is that my parents always told me from young that, like, you know, you should aim to go to Cambridge. You know, you're smart enough. But you know, when you're a kid, you just think that's just what parents say. Like they, you know, they gas you. So like, yeah, you can do anything you put your mind to. So I thought, oh yeah, okay, Cambridge. But yeah, from that moment, that's when I was like, no, I'm going to take this thing seriously. So from GCSEs, I did well, and then when it got to A levels, and it was like, or AS levels, and it was like around the time to apply for Cambridge. My school like did this thing where it's like if you're applying to like Oxbridge or do medicine, there was like special like lunchtime classes that you could attend to like help you to write your personal statement and give you an idea of the kind of things that you need to do. And I started going, but it's funny, like my peers and some of the teachers as well laughed at the fact that I was going. which I thought was interesting, especially because there was people there in that class who I know that I did better than in my exams, but like, I was like, whatever, it's just like, haters, whatever, what can I do?
You got in, so...
Yeah, so it was funny. I think the point of this kind of rambly story is that, like, even though, I went to a good school and my school did have, like, really good facilities in terms of, like, getting people into Oxbridge or whatever, I did feel very much that, like, that wasn't I wasn't included in that. And I don't know if it was just down to the colour of my skin, being a black boy from London, because I was also, like, I wasn't, like, the most exemplary student. Like, for me, homework was optional. Like, I was just kind of like, I'll do it when I need to do it kind of thing. So obviously, I think that played into it as well. But the fact that, like, even once I showed that I had the aptitude, people still didn't take me very seriously. And I thought that was quite interesting. That's something that sort of stuck with me. So yeah, that was kind of my journey. And it meant that when I got to Cambridge as well, so my school, it's like a traditional-ish private school. It's in, like, the Essexy bit end of London. So it's like a traditional school, but it's filled with, like, a lot of Essex kids. So it's like Towie, kind of like smart Towie people, mostly smart Towie people. So yeah, but the school was very traditional. In fact, the same person that built my school was the person that built Selwyn College. So it's like when I went from there to Cambridge, it was just like kind of more of the same. So like a lot of the kind of, I don't think I can swear on this, I'm not gonna swear, but like a lot of the that, like the negative stuff, like the kind of microaggressions and like the kind of being in that kind of very white middle class environment, I'd done like 7 years of it already. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like more of the same. So in that sense, I was kind of grateful for that. Like, yeah, it was just another 4 more years of what I was already quite sort of used to. So, yeah.
Yeah, and following on from that, how were you able to adjust to Cambridge? So you obviously mentioned that your experience at a private school kind of helped with that, but more generally, being Black in a predominantly white space, such as Cambridge, what was your experience like?
Man,
it's a loaded question.
It was, no, man, it was, do you know what? Like I said, it was like more of the same, but I did, for the first time, like I was around people that had like never ever really like come across a Black person and B, someone from London as well. That was interesting to me, like people coming from different backgrounds and like literally having like no idea about like how to kind of like interact with you or what to expect from you. And yeah, so I mean, I tried not to kind of like to waste too much energy on it. Like I was just like, I'm here to do my thing. Like I'm just here to study, to work hard. Like if I make friends, that's good as well. And I did make quite a lot of friends, but I'll come to that later. Yeah, it was like a little bit more of the same, but again, like with the sort of kind of the added element of people coming from all over the UK and also like quite like traditionally middle class people. The people that I went to school with, they were what sort of like, I guess British people would say is like new money. So like they still kind of like, I don't know, like they still kind of had this kind of like, how can I put it? Like their grandparents were probably working class and like they're a bit more down to earth, I suppose. Whereas like I met people like, there was one guy, I'll never forget, in his pigeonhole was next to mine. I say this on the podcast as well. Like his parents, well, basically, first of all, this guy was always like riding horses. And I'm like, where did you even keep him? Like, you always had like...
Around Cambridge.
Yeah, like they had stables in Cambridge where he kept his horse. And that was mad to me. I was like,
what?
Wow. So, and like he always had his like equestrian helmet or hat or whatever. But yeah, one time we were both at the pigeonholes together and like he had this package, but it looked really weird. It was like in like this kind of waxy paper. I was like, oh, what's that? Like, I was just being curious. And he was like, oh, my parents sent me a really nice fine cut of steak or like some sort of game or something. Like, wow, this is what people like, meet in the post. Like,
every week, standard.
Yeah, so like that was interesting to me. But I think that's more of like I guess that's more of a class thing than anything else. But yeah, man, I think I like to think that I took things in my stride, and also I made some really like sort of important friendships very, very early on, which helped a lot. So, yeah.
And following on from that, what were some of your favourite spaces in Cambridge, and kind of who did you spend your time with?
Some of my favourite spaces, I think less sort of like geographical spaces, but more just kind of like figurative spaces. But it was just mostly when I was around, I think one of my sort of refuges was being part of the African Caribbean Society, because I was around people that like, we had very similar shared experiences. They were people that I could relate to. I didn't have to kind of like, you know, like you kind of wear a mask as a Black person in like kind of these kind of environments. Like there's no airs and graces. There's enough, like I didn't have to worry about whether I was laughing too loud. And to be honest, like I don't think I think about that too much, but I just felt like around my people, like I could just like relax. I didn't have to worry about no microaggressions, people asking me dumb questions. Like, do you know what I mean? Like I could just be myself, and these people, they saw me for like who I was. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, around my friends in the ACS for sure. Like wherever we were, whatever we was up to, like it was just good vibes. There'd be times when like, because there's a few people that were quite musical as well. People that dance as well and whatever. But like, I remember there was one time, I can't remember where we were, but we were in like a music room, I think in Jesus, and there was a piano, and we were just like jamming there. Like one guy was just playing the piano, one of my good friends, and we was just like, yeah, catching joke, laughing, dancing. Like that for me was, I think, yeah, that was really important to have in Cambridge. And also I played a lot of music as well in Cambridge. So my rehearsals, the West Green Road Music Hall, that was like a nice kind of like escape from like hectic Cambridge life, like, and it was just a chance to like kind of really concentrate on something that wasn't work related, which was nice. I played football as well, so like, yeah, playing football was again another like, yeah, it was an escape for me. And then like geographical spaces, I genuinely think that Cambridge is such a beautiful place to like live and study. So some of my favorite places, I really love the Law Fac Library. That library is the one. I don't know.
So paying. Oh my God.
There's one college that had a really nice library as well that I used to go to. Where is it? It's on one of the bridges that goes over the Cam, like in between town and like.
Is it Kings or Keys? Maybe.
I can't remember, but like it kind of overhangs. Like it has like this kind of. There's the bridge. Oh, where is the bridge? Because all I can only see it in my mind's eye. But anyway, there's like one library there that sort of overhangs over like the river, which is really nice. I used to just like go in there. Maybe it was it Trinity Hall? Maybe.
Oh, I've never been there.
Yeah, Trinity Hall's got some. I'm pretty sure it's Trinity Hall. But anyway.
Oh, I think it was. Yeah, I have been there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can't be certain, but Cambridge has a lot of nice libraries. So there were other libraries that I just kind of just discovered and just spent time studying in. But yeah, just in general, Cambridge is a beautiful place to study, man. Just like cycling around and like worrying about your supervision, but still nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's nice that you can like walk everywhere, or like, I don't cycle, I don't know how to ride a bike, but you can walk everywhere.
This is definitely the time to learn.
100. I don't
know now. You'll never learn how to ride a bike.
I'm fine with that. I'm so fine with that. But no, the fact that you can like, everywhere is in walking distance, basically, so you can really take in like all the nice buildings, especially when the weather's nice, really nice. But obviously you mentioned your podcast. So in terms of setting up spaces and creating things, did you have any experience of doing that within Cambridge, or could you go into more detail about how the podcast kind of came about and why?
Yeah, so I guess at Cambridge, for us, like when I was on the committee for the African Caribbean Society, I feel like a lot of the stuff we did kind of like lay down a legacy. Like, I don't know if you guys still do Culture Fests, but we started that. That was like our thing.
Maybe it's called ACS Affair now.
Okay.
Yeah, that is. I'm on the committee this year, so.
Oh, nice. So yeah, like I think we really sort of took our mandate for the ACS quite seriously. Like we wanted to do like put on entertainment, but also we wanted to sort of cover all bases. So I think if I remember correctly, we had like a mantra of like the 3 E's: education, entertainment, and empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's the one I saw on the website when I was looking at in like year 12, year 13.
Yeah.
Was that still there?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. So I don't know if we came up with that mantra, but I know that we took it very, very seriously. Like we wanted to, we made sure that we had like, was it a careers fair? I think, yeah, we had a really cool careers fair, like pretty much, I think it was in Freshers Week. I think for us, it was just about like making sure that, you know, like all the bases were covered for people that wanted to, that sort of looked to the ACS for support. So, like, you know, we did have, you know, we did Raven, we did all of that, but like, we made sure that we like gave space for people that weren't about that so much as well. Like even like the sort of socializing events as well. Like we did like sort of quite a few sort of chilled ones. We did Take Me Out. That's when Take Me Out was like new back then.
We did it this year with ARU. Yeah.
How was it?
It was interesting.
You know what? Like, yeah, so that was fun because I think, yeah, back then Take Me Out as a TV program was kind of new. That's how long ago it was. So I think we were the first people to do that as well. But we kind of opened that up to everyone, which actually did go pretty well. But I remember the write-up in the tab afterwards was just scandalous.
Oh, and no.
This whole big race row because the person that wrote it, I think this person now is someone quite senior at BuzzFeed, or they were anyway. So yeah, cancelling doesn't really work. But she wrote some like, it was just a really kind of like racially like, it was a racist article. I'm going to call a spade. Like it was just like very kind of like clutch pearls. Look at what these black people are doing. And like, you know, like when people talk about black people, but like they add like, they like try to like ghettoize it or make it seem like more than like what it was. Like, and it was just like, nah, like it wasn't like that. Like, anyway, but yeah, we really tried to like kind of, make sure that the ACS catered to like, as many of the sort of black students as possible. But, you know, when like you're young and like you do things, it's like you have a kind of idealized vision of like what you put together. So I'm pretty sure there were situations where we did kind of fall short or miss the mark, but I'm glad that we were serious about like kind of sticking to that mantra of the 3 E's. That for us, that was very important. It's actually really hard to like remember like specifics as well now that it's like 10 years ago. And then I suppose for the podcast, the reason we started it was we felt that better representation was needed for Black Cambridge students and what they look like, and the fact that we even exist, you know. I think it was around the time when the ACS, their picture of like all the Black students in Cambridge, I think it went viral or something like that. We started around the same time. So like it was a discussion that was like sort of, quite mainstream, I suppose, at the time. So we wanted to kind of change the perception of like what people thought of, you know, the typical Cambridge student, you know, or what a Cambridge student can look like. And also just to kind of like inspire and encourage like, you know, the younger generation, the people that were coming behind us. So like people that were like 10 years younger than us, you know? So like, I guess like people your age now. So, for us, that was really important. And it's really, really great to see now that, you know, there have been strides that have happened in terms of admission of Black students into Cambridge. Like there's still a long way to go, obviously. But, you know, when we were there, we pretty much knew every single Black person in our year. And I think if there were people in, you know, other years, we could just pretty much sum up all the Black people that were based in the UK in the entirety of the university, which is nuts. And I don't know if you guys can still do that, but from the looks of it, it seems like each year on year, there is an increase in the intake of Black students. So that is great to see. I think what I would like to see going forward now is, we have, I guess, more diversity. There's more admission, but I think actually kind of actively having inclusion for Black students is like the next step, like making sure that Cambridge isn't a space that is anti-Black or kind of hostile to Black students, whichever shape or form that they come in, whether they are working class or middle class, or whether they have disabilities, whether they are LGBTQ or whatever. Like, it should be an inclusive space for Black students.
Definitely agree. And just obviously we were on Target Oxford, so they kind of pointed us in the right direction with loads of resources, and
awesome,
your podcast.
Target Oxford.
Yeah, honestly, without them, I definitely wouldn't be here.
So we actually we did an event for Target Oxbridge.
I was there.
Oh, you were there?
Front row.
I was at Oxford. I don't know why.
You made the wrong decision.
Tolu, did I talk to you afterwards? Because I remember there was one girl that came up to me afterwards and was asking a few questions. I don't know if that was you.
Probably was.
I asked a lot of questions. It was probably me. I'm not.
But that's so cool. But yeah, shout out to Target Oxbridge. They're doing great things. Shout out Naomi Kouame.
74 Target Oxford students going to Oxbridge this year.
Wow. That's incredible. They're doing great things. And like I said before, like, I was quite fortunate that my school, they had those kind of resources for people that were looking to go to Oxford. But, obviously I understand that isn't something that is, widely available. It's not super common. And then if you factor in the fact that you're a Black student as well, a really, really important function that Target Oxbridge are doing. I've got a lot of time for them.
Definitely. And I think that moves us on perfectly to like the activism part of things. So we've been kind of skating around the issues a little bit about like how it is being a Black student. And what we really want to do is sort of have a picture of the different issues at the time that you were a student, and seeing whether that is similar to now. And unfortunately it might be. So the first question is essentially, what were the main issues like concerning Black students or student activism at the time?
So I think in terms of like student activism, I think a lot has changed in 10 years in that when I was there, the idea of like activism wasn't as, I feel like there was a turning point in the middle of like this last decade with Black Lives Matter. And I feel like that has now kind of mobilized like all of us to be like very kind of conscientious about activism and our rights in a way that was not to say that it didn't exist like when I was there. But I feel like activism was almost like kind of like another kind of extracurricular activity that you like really like you'd like dedicated yourself to. Whereas now I feel like everybody is kind of like in some way or form, they are conscientious about some form of activism, especially because like back then, like there wasn't Twitter like how it is now. There weren't the social media channels where you could be like constantly like in the loop. Like my social media back then was just Facebook. Like I didn't have Twitter until third year, and that's because I went abroad. Instagram, like that was just for taking photos. Like it wasn't like it wasn't a means for like for doing work. So it was very much kind of like grassroots and on the ground. So if I'm being completely honest, like the most I would say in terms of activism that I participated in was my work with the ACS, and I'm pretty sure there were like one or two protests that I did attend, or petitions like around Cambridge Union was a very kind of like political space, like platforming and stuff like that, and just sort of access to the Cambridge Union as well was quite contentious. But yeah, in terms of the issues that we faced as Black students, you know, those issues, it's not like it wasn't there 10 years ago, and, you know, and that's why there wasn't any activism. Of course it was there. But I feel like the teeth that we have now to fight those kind of issues, we have more resources at our disposal. But yeah, we went through it. You know, one of the kind of like very common things was just being denied access to a college just because like, I remember one time I was going Trinity because I had a supervision there. This was in my final year as well. So this is like 2012, 2013. And so I was going into Trinity through there because my supervision, the staircase was like literally as you come in. So I'm going in and there's people ahead of me and, you know, the porter doesn't check their whatever, he just lets them walk through it. I walk in, he's like, oh, where's your ID? I was like, well, I've got supervision. And he was like, yeah, but I need to see your ID. So I was like, okay, here's my ID. And he was like, are you a member of this college? I was like, no, but my supervisor is, and I have a supervision to get to. So he's like, no, I'm sorry, I can't let you through this gate. And I was like, why? And he was like, I just can't let you through because I was like, no, can you explain? He was like, well, they're refurbishing this gate at the moment, or they're restoring it. You know, it's a very old gate. So, and I was just like, I don't have time for this. Like, I'm not doing this. So I just messaged my supervisor saying that there's some porter at the gate and he's not letting me in. And in the end, she had to come down and just like let me in. But like, that was an extreme example. I'm pretty sure like I didn't have anything as bad as that, but like numerous times it's like there would be like a group of students walking ahead of you, white students, nobody else look at their ID. As soon as you get to, where's your ID? Are you a member of this university? It's like, why do you think I'm just strolling in? Like,
literally.
So that there's so few Black people and so many white people in Cambridge as a city, but the minority of Black people that are walking through, they're the ones that you're targeting. When there's so many white people around and you're not checking their cam cards.
Yeah.
This is what I mean. And like, it got to the point where I was like, you saw me 2 weeks ago. I had a supervision 2 weeks ago. So why are we doing this? Like,
yeah,
I'm the only one.
I'm tired.
It's mad. Like, even on the way to our first ACS committee meeting, I think we were at King's or one of those like traditional colleges. And obviously there were just like bare white people coming through. And as soon as we tried to walk in, where's your ID? Like, it's just mad that it's still the same issues.
That is a shame. That is a shame that still is going on. But well, one thing that sort of became quite evident to me, but I do need to caveat this. I think my teaching experience differs from like the average Cambridge student, because the majority of my professors were women for a start, and that's quite unusual. And also, like I had like people of color as well that were teaching me, which is not very, very common. But I would say the majority of the issues that I had weren't in academic scenarios. So, you know, most of my professors, like, they were just like, most of my supervisors were just like, look, it's about the work. Like, I just see your work at the end of the day. And I had, you know, a fairly good experience with my supervisors. Most of the time when I had issues, it was with like people that were non-academic staff at colleges, just assuming that, you know, as a Black person, you can't possibly be going here. Or like there was another scenario at Churchill College where we put on an event. Actually, that was the, what's it called? The event, which is now the ACS affair. Cultfest, yeah. It's been a long day. So we had like catering, and one of the porters was trying to say that we had to like hoover the room after using it. And obviously we've paid for it. So, you know, that obviously that includes the cleaning costs and whatever. And that's completely normal. But one of my friends, you know, the porter was just like, you need to hoover in here, and gave her the hoover. And she was, you know, she's a very kind person. So she was just hoovering because she just thought, oh. And then another staff, like non-academic staff, came in and was just like, what are you doing? Why are you hoovering in here? You don't need to be doing that. So yeah, it was just kind of like stuff like that. And then obviously like your peers as well, like sort of side-eye kind of comments and just, you know, the general kind of microaggressions and stuff like that. Oh, are you at Cambridge? Yeah. What, ARU? No, I'm at Fitz. Those kind of things. I guess that's still going on because I can sort of see nodding.
Yeah.
The ARU comment on my first day in Cambridge, I was like, I don't know if I can take it.
And you know what? Like, no shade to ARU whatsoever, because I love the ARU lot. A lot of our sort of good mates at Cambridge were from ARU, so no shade to them at all. It's just that the assumption that I, as a black person, can't possibly go into Cambridge University. That was but yeah, you guys know I'm preaching to the choir, so. Yeah.
But I guess what's like a blessing and a curse for us now is because there are way more black people in Cambridge, we kind of got away, especially in Fitz, of just staying together, kind of. If there were really ignorant people, we could just be let's just go to our kitchen and forget this. But I don't know. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, because now we're isolated from loads of the normal Fitz people.
You know what? It's about safe spaces, isn't it? It's about where you feel most sane. And look, people will say, "Oh, you guys are I had it all the time as well." I had a really good friendship group in my college, my college friends, but they would sometimes be a bit funny about the fact that I'm going out with my ACS friends, you know what I mean? But I didn't business. I was yeah, well, that's your personal issue, because do you know what? For me, this is how I stay sane at Cambridge. It is a tough environment to be in, and you need to look after yourself and do the things that will allow you to be well. So yeah, man, don't worry about isolating or that's you. That's your safe space. Do your thing.
Yeah, definitely. And just quickly finishing this kind of section, I think access is something that's we don't necessarily see as activism or doing, I don't know, people don't see it as important as it actually is. So I guess I just wanted to know what kind of access work did the ACS committee do, or any other initiatives that you were part of?
Oh God, that's a good question. I can't remember specifics, but I know that we worked with our sponsors to have careers days. But yeah, we would work with them to have special careers days. So people, and I think on a few occasions actually, it was black employees of those firms would come to us and have a career day, speak to somebody that's there, get people onto what are they called, the spring weeks and stuff like that. So yeah, that was, I think for us through the ACS, that was the main way of doing that.
Great. I think it's just interesting to see how these things change, even the numbers in ACS. I think our year we couldn't even have the house party that people have every year because the house was too small for all the new freshers.
Wow, so you guys have a house party now? That's sick.
Yeah, I mean, not this year, but every other year.
That's good.
So you touched on mentorship in the careers aspect and linking people up with black employees at different firms. So in terms of mentorship and role models, who were kind of other black students that you looked up to during your time at Cambridge, or even looking back on your time in Cambridge?
Yeah, so one of my closest friends at Cambridge, he was a year above me and he was also at Fitz. And literally our conversation started, I was walking towards the freshers block, E, and he was walking sort of up that path, where the library, going past the library. Mm-hmm. And we'd seen each other around, and I guess done the nod or whatever, but then he came up to me and was like, "I'm going to talk to you because you're black." Hello, Ashley. And then he was literally he was 1 year ahead of me, so it was really good to have a close friend like that to just kind of help you navigate things, and just have someone sort of in your college that's down to earth that you can chat to as well. So yeah, he was I'd say probably one of the more influential figures when I was there. He probably doesn't even know this, but yeah. And then I guess, do you know what? When I was there, a guy by the name of Tom Chibo, he was president of the Cambridge Uni Students Union. Kusu. Is it still called Kusu?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was cool because it was just like, right, okay, we have a black Kusu president. And I think he was about it. Like, I can't really remember that well. But it was just nice to see, like nice to have that, I suppose. Like, you know, you just kind of felt, okay, black people, we're in this, like, we're here. And I think just overall, in terms of like, support and mentorship, just like I said, the friends that I had around me, especially my black friends, ACS friends, like, they were a real support system, and I can't emphasize that enough. And I don't know if they even know how important they were, but I think for them also, they would say the same thing. Like, us having the friendship group that we had, like, we used to do like cookouts and cook like West Indian and West African food and things like that. And that was just like, I guess people probably don't realize how vital that is, especially if you're not from that community, but it's like having a little piece of home just to feel like normal, you know, like that was really good. Like having rice and peas or jollof rice or macaroni, like, you know, like macaroni cheese like that.
Yeah. I completely agree with that because around Christmas, or like, is it called Bridgemas?
Yeah,
I think. Yeah. Obviously, we had like a few friends from Target Oxbridge that came with us to Cambridge, and like some new friends as well. So most people don't want to come to Fitz because they say it's too far. 15-minute walk, give or take. But we basically cooked loads of food. We had jollof, mac and cheese, roast potatoes, everything. And everyone just came round. And it was just nice to just sit with your friends and chill in a kitchen and have like a few hours of peace amongst all the Cambridge like stress. Yeah.
And like in those scenarios, like I literally laughed like the most. Like that's when you laugh until your stomach hurts, until your eyes are watering, you know, like, and that is so good for you. Like, it's so good for your well-being, like just being able to just be happy, man, because Cambridge is stressed. Like, let's not get it twisted. Like, you need some sort of refuge, I think. So
I think that leads us on to like the next question, like set of questions about change in Cambridge. So the first one we came up with was one thing you never, I can't say that word, I keep messing it up. Never thought would change, but has.
There's a black master. I thought I'd never ever see the day. I'd never ever imagine. Like, it's just funny to me that there's white people calling a black person master. That just kills me. I didn't even like really saying master too much because I just thought,
a bit weird.
Yeah. But okay.
And she went to Fitz.
Yeah, okay, large. Because you know what, Fitz has been embarrassing me recently, like David Starkey and all that rubbish. Like, man, I've not been proud to say that I'm from Fitz, but okay. First black female master is from Fitzwilliam. So I never thought that was going to happen. So that's now happened. I don't know. I'm quite an optimistic person, so I think, I don't think there's much where I'd be like, you know, I never thought that would happen, or like, because I feel like, you know, barriers should be broken down. Things should change. Change is good. I don't know. What is Cambridge like now? Like, is there anything that I've said and you're like, right, that's not really like how it is now? Or
I think the thing about seeing other black people that you don't know is something that's come up quite a lot. Because I remember,
okay, that's good.
I remember, like, I was walking around, I was like, going into the centre of town and seeing like 5 black people in your little Sainsbury's run, I love that.
Yeah.
And I imagine like that didn't happen that much when you were at Cambridge because there just weren't enough black people to like fill up the town centre.
You know what? If that did happen, it would like have been like a mini event. Like, it would be like, oh, I swear.
I remember I was walking from like a really far college, like through where Sainsbury's is. Every shop we went to, we picked up another black girl. We were all in Sainsbury's at the same time doing shopping for something. That was amazing. And then also just seeing people you don't know. I remember the first time, it was around like Jesus College, and I was just staring at this boy. I was like, I think I was with you, Leona, or someone. I was like, Leona, I don't know who that is. How is this possible? So I definitely think that's
honestly. And that's the thing, because we know the people who like go to ACS or BME campaign and stuff. Like, I had a similar experience. I was like taking pictures for one of the plays in Cambridge, and it was really cool. There were two black boys were in the lead roles, and I didn't know either of them. I was like, wow, so we're really out here doing stuff and not knowing each other. So it's cool that we have a big enough community where...
Yeah. I remember now why I wasn't super keen to be sort of like politically involved in activism, and it's because when I was there, the majority of kind of like black activism was like politically black activism. So there was an organisation, I don't know if it still exists, but it was called the Black Students Campaign. But I just couldn't vibe with it at all, because I opened you get like a booklet in your freshers pack, and I just seemed like bare like people that aren't black. Mm-hmm. So that for me was like a real kind of like, it just kind of, it really put me off like sort of political activism, because I was like, this is not really how I understand blackness. Like I didn't know that blackness involved everybody that wasn't white. So that was one of the main reasons I remember now why I was just like, no, I'm good. I'm just going to do what I can.
Yeah. I think it's changed to, it might have changed the BME campaign now, and I'm on the BME campaign committee. And I think one thing that was really important to us was like making sure that we're looking at all the different issues under the BME umbrella. Like you can't say, oh, Black History Month to show all the BME people. You can't say we're tackling BME issues, because what are those, and what is a BME issue? Like describe it, point it out. White issue that every single person that's not white faces in the exact same way. So I think definitely now in terms of the student union, because we're now part of like the wider student union, it's really important to us to make sure that people are aware of the differences that non-white people face at Cambridge, and they are different.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. When I was there, it was kind of like the ACS versus like the Black Students Campaign in a funny sort of way, because the university didn't recognise us officially, whereas they did recognise BSc officially. Do you see what I mean? So even like sort of putting Cambridge University in front of ACS was, I think at the time, even contentious. So yeah, I don't know if that's still the case now, but yeah, there was definitely like a kind of like, there's a BSc, which is like the official like black thing, and the ACS is like the unofficial but actually about black people thing.
Yeah. I think this year there's a lot more collaboration, which obviously helps, but there is overlap, and there are obviously things that are done differently, but I feel like it's good that there's at least the two groups like talking to each other and working on things together, or like sharing things out.
Yeah. That's good. That's positive to hear.
So moving on to like the future, what is one thing or maybe a few things that you'd want to see change about Cambridge?
Yeah, the key thing for me, and I said it before, was inclusion. Not just like having diversity and more black people in Cambridge, but like black people need to feel comfortable in that space. Like you shouldn't, like we were saying before, having to sort of resort to safe spaces and sort of kind of isolation. While I think that is a good solution for now, that shouldn't be the long term. Cambridge really needs to think about including its black students, making it, black student friendly, not hostile. And it has a long way to go. If what I was saying still resonates with you, then yeah, I know they've got a lot of work to do. So yeah, but obviously, like the increase in black admissions to Cambridge is fantastic. Let's see more of it. More students from state schools as well. That's really, really important. Like Cambridge shouldn't just be a middle class private school playground. Like, you need people there from all walks of life, all backgrounds. Because the smartest people aren't, the people that have had the most privilege when it comes to education, So, I think that's really, really important. So, for me, it's about inclusion, obviously increasing in black admissions, but also diversity in terms of class as well as race.
And then finally, so hopefully this like jogged your memory on some things. If there's anything that our questions haven't really allowed you to talk about, like any anecdotes that sort of sum up your experience of being black in Cambridge, or just anything that you'd like to
I mean, I feel like I'm quite an anecdote-y person, so like literally all my answers, I'm sure there was like some anecdote. I don't know if you already. Well, I guess, I mean, this is it's a bit of a negative one, but so my friend, who I mentioned before, was like kind of like my mentor in the year above me at Fitz. He is mixed race, and he's a lot fairer than me, and his features are quite different to mine as well. Like, he has quite a narrow nose. So we look very, very different, right? But literally everybody in that Cambridge college in Fitzwilliam got confused between the two of us. Like, literally, like, he's called Ashley and Patrick. And the amount of times people call me Ashley, and I'm just like, how?
Impossible.
Like, you don't how? Like, there was one time when I went to see the bursar to talk about something very, like, you know, I guess confidential, specific. And she's like, yeah, so Ashley. And I was like, no, I'm not Ashley. Like, I'm sure I emailed you saying Patrick is, like, what's happening here? Like, and, I don't think she works anymore, but there was a really nice little Scottish lady that worked in the what is that place called? Like the cafe, but it has a name.
Buttery?
No, in you know the cafe?
Oh, we just call it the cafe.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the cafe, she literally stopped us and asked us, like, together, like, are you two twins? Are you brothers? And I was like, no, like, what? Like, we just looked at each other, just like started laughing, like, because yeah, you've met Ashley. Well, you've seen what Ashley looks like.
Yeah, can confirm you don't look alike.
So that was like annoying, but also like, yeah, it was, I guess, kind of funny, because it was like, how on earth do these people, like, how do they function, man? Like, all black people was like the same, like, just carbon copies. Anyway, yeah, I think that's my last anecdote.
That was a really good one. I feel like that describes, unfortunately, Cambridge quite well.
Let's hope that it gets better. Let's hope that people can distinguish between, you know, shades of brown as well. That would be a start.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for getting me on to talk. It's been lovely chatting with you guys, and yeah, hearing what it's like now. I'm glad that there have been some changes, and I'm, you know, a bit disappointed that there's still a long way to go, but I think I kind of already knew that. So
thank you so much for speaking with us as well. It's
no
been
problem.
nice to hear from you.